When Rafael and I started dating, it was like being in a forbidden dream. He was a true walking sin. That body that seemed sculpted by hand, a smile that made anyone lose their mind. He was my prince, but with a touch of scoundrel that drove me crazy. And me? Well, I knew I played my charm like no one else. Always with the most provocative photos, the right captions, and that look that said, "You can try, but he's mine." On the networks, we were the couple that everyone wanted and hated at the same time. Luxury trips, dinners washed down with expensive wine, and statements worthy of cinema. A perfect life, right? Well, at least that's what it seemed, because between one click and another, something started to change. You know that feeling that there's a shadow in paradise? I felt it. Rafa, my personal Adonis, started to look different. He would return from training with a strange energy, a bit distant, as if he were in another world. And I, trying to maintain my pose as a confident woman, said to myself, "You are traveling. He's tired, that's all." But deep down, I knew. We always know, don't we? And then the signs began. He was glued to his cell phone as if it were a national secret. Stifled giggles. Messages arrived all the time, and I pretended not to notice. But I understood. And every vibration from that cell phone was like a stab at my confidence. Then came the annoying habit of locking yourself in the bathroom. Guys, seriously, who spends that much time in the bathroom? I even joked, "Rafa, what are you doing? There, writing a book?" He just laughed with that naughty smile and said, "Nothing, love. Relax." To relax? Because while he was laughing, I heard his cell phone notifications popping up nonstop, and my heart was racing. It was like I was on the verge of discovering something I didn't want, but at the same time, I wanted. Woman feels. It's a natural radar that we have, and mine was screaming. Training sessions started to last longer. Conversations between us became shorter, and even when he was with me, it seemed like his head was somewhere else. That's when I started putting the pieces together. Prince Charming was standing outside the castle, and I pretended not to see. Why, right. Who wants to admit that the fairy tale turned into a nightmare? But the slap in the face doesn't take long to arrive. And, in our case, it came hard. Like a punch in the gut. Because no matter how much you try to pretend you don't see it, there are things that are impossible to ignore. But, we try to fool ourselves. "It's just in my head," I repeated, while looking at Rafael and trying to find that man I fell in love with. But that guy seemed to have disappeared. Or worse, he seemed to be looking in another direction. Maybe for someone else. It happened one night. I was almost falling asleep when I heard his cell phone vibrate. Once, then another, and another. It was a show of vibrations, as if the universe was giving me a warning. My heart started to race. You know that feeling that something big is going to happen? That was it. I turned to the side, and there he was, sleeping like an angel, or like a scoundrel in disguise. The cell phone was left on the bedside table, so innocent, but at the same time so full of secrets. I hesitated for a second, just one, because let's be honest, curiosity always speaks louder. I picked up the cell phone, and that's when I saw it. A message from someone named Clara. And do you know what was written? "I'm dying to see you again. Just remembering the last meeting makes me wet." It was like being slapped in the face and at the same time punched in the stomach. My body froze. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or throw that phone in his face. But instead, I continued. Because if it had already started, now I was going to finish it. My hands shook as I unlocked the device. Of course, I knew the password. And what did I see? It looked like a fifth-rate film. Spicy photos, hot messages, and even audio with muffled moans. One message in particular stuck with me. "Rafa, you are irresistible. I want more from that night." I read it, and it was as if every word was a stab. The woman who believed in the fairy tale was falling apart right there, with that cell phone in her hand. My finger slipped on the keyboard, and I accidentally pressed an audio button. And then I heard her voice, sexy, low, a whisper that made me shiver with hatred. "I can still taste you in my mouth." At that moment, I froze. And of course, like in any good dramatic scene, that's when I heard his voice behind me. "What are you doing, Sabrina?" I turned around slowly, my cell phone still in my hand, and said, without a filter, "Who is Clara?" His silence was deafening. He tried to grab his cell phone, but I held on tight. "No, Rafael. Now you will explain." Every word of these messages. After that night, sleeping became a luxury. Her voice, those messages, everything was pounding in my head. Who was Clara? How did she manage to invade our history like that? I needed answers. The next day, while Rafael was leaving for training, I decided to act. Because who sits around waiting for the truth to fall into their lap? I started with his social networks. Nothing. No clues. But when I looked for Clara, it was like opening the door to a sexy hell. A profile that was the perfect mix of temptation and danger, provocative photos, ingratiating subtitles, comments, from hungry men saying things that made me want to vomit. She was a veritable storm of sensuality. And the worst? I discovered that Clara was an adult content producer. That's right. The woman who was destroying my relationship made explicit videos for the whole world to see. Each click was a stab at my self-esteem. Sabrina, the perfect influencer, was replaced by a stranger who sold her boldness online. I looked at those photos and thought, is this serious, Rafael? Did you trade what we had for this? But deep down, I already knew the answer. Because sometimes the problem isn't who we are, it's who they choose to be. And at that moment, Rafael had chosen to be an idiot with terrible taste. I tried to understand. I swear I tried. What did she have that I didn't have? While I was going out of my way to keep our relationship interesting, to be that woman he was proud to be by his side, he was out there liking photos and commenting on things that I would rather never have read. One of his messages read, "You are pure fire. I need more." More? What do you mean more? My heart burned with anger. I was enough. I always have been. Or at least I thought it was. But the worst? It was seeing his likes on her videos. Oh, I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help it. Every like was like a slap in the face, as if he was shouting, "Look what I really want." My heart tried to defend itself. She's not better than you. But the doubt was already planted. And you know what's worse than physical betrayal? It's when someone makes you feel small, insignificant, like you're not enough. It was as if he had placed another body, another desire between us. And worst of all, this body was winning. But look, I'm not the type to swallow a frog. I never went. If something bothers me, I say it. And this time, it wouldn't be any different. I waited for Rafael to arrive from training. He came in, dropped his backpack on the couch, and gave me that smile. Ah, that smile. Carefree, innocent, as if he hadn't done anything. Little did he know that the bomb was already armed. "Who is Clara?" I asked directly, holding his cell. Phone in my hand. I didn't even disguise it. I went for the jugular. He froze. Literally. For a few seconds, it seemed like time had stopped. Then he tried to play dumb. "What are you talking about, Sabrina?" I laughed, but it was that acidic laugh, full of anger. "Don't act like an idiot, Rafael. Who is she? The woman with the messages, the photos, the audios." He started to stutter. Because, there was no way to escape. "It's nothing. Serious. It's just a silly fantasy. Just curious, love. You're exaggerating." "Curiosity?" I gave a nervous laugh. "Curiosity is searching something on Google, Rafael. This is treason." He tried to get closer, with that face of a dog that fell from moving. "Sabrina, you know I love you. It was just a mistake. I would never do anything to hurt you." I looked him in the eyes, and do you know what I saw? Blame. But he doesn't blame himself for what he did. It was fear. Fear of being caught. "Hurt?" I said, my voice thick with anger. "Rafael, you didn't hurt me. You destroyed me. You think this is just about another woman? This is about trust, about respect. And you threw it all away like it was worthless." He was silent. And that silence, it was the last straw. I turned my back and went to the bedroom. But before closing the door, I dropped the last bomb. "If I'm not enough for you, then go there, Rafael. You'll stay with her, because I'm not going to be the woman who accepts crumbs." That night, I locked myself in my room and broke down. I cried like I hadn't cried in a long time. But it wasn't just about betrayal. It was the feeling that everything we built had been thrown in the trash. That man, Rafael, who I thought I knew so well, was now a complete stranger. And the worst? I felt guilty. Was I not enough? Was there something missing? These questions echoed in my head, torturing me. I remembered all the times I tried hard to please him, of the moments when I gave myself body and soul, of the promises we made. All of this now seemed like a lie, but as the hours passed, something inside me began to change. Sadness gave way to anger, and the anger, it brought a clarity I didn't have before. I didn't deserve this. I repeated that phrase in my head until I believed it. Rafael had made his choice, and with that, he showed exactly who he was. So I would make my choice too. The next morning, he appeared with that regretful dog face. "Please, Sabrina, it was a mistake. Don't do this to us." But you know what? I noticed he wasn't sorry because he loved me. He was sorry because he got caught. It wasn't about love. It was about ego. I looked into his eyes and said, without fear, I did everything for us, Rafael. I really gave myself away, but I won't be with someone who doesn't respect me. You chose. Now it's my turn. It was difficult. It was the hardest decision I've ever made. But at the same time, it was liberating. After he left, I took out my cell phone and posted just one sentence. I deserve something real. It was a final point, the end of one story and the beginning of another. When he closed the door, not going to lie, I felt empty. It was strange not having him there after years of sharing everything. But do you know what happened to that void? He was transforming. It became space. A space that was just mine. Space to find the woman I was before all this. To rediscover the woman I wanted to be. Rafael may have chosen someone else, but I chose myself. And honestly, this was the best choice I ever made. At first, it was hell. Every corner of the house seemed to scream his name. A t-shirt thrown here. His perfume still permeating there. It was as if Rafael's ghost was haunting me. But do you want to know? I wasn't going to run away. I decided to face it head on. I deleted all our photos from social media. That's right. Even the ones that exploded with likes and compliments. I put the memories away in the back of the closet and went to face the mirror. And do you know who I saw there? Not his Sabrina, but Sabrina I had forgotten. The woman who was asleep, waiting for her time to shine again. I decided to invest myself. I went back to the gym, but this time it wasn't to please anyone. It was for me, because I wanted to be proud of what I saw in the mirror. Finally, I took that photography course that I always dreamed of taking. And do you know what happened? I fell in love with a new version of myself. I found friends that I had left aside because of him, and I discovered that I was still that fun, charming, and full of life woman that I always was. With each step, I reaffirmed one thing. I wasn't just Rafael's girlfriend. I was Sabrina. And let's face it, that was more than enough. And it wasn't just me who noticed. One day, I received a message from a follower that chilled me to the core. Sabrina, you inspire me. Seeing your strength makes me believe that I too can start over. I'm not going to lie, I cried when I read that. But it was a good cry, you know? Because in the end, Rafael may have hurt me, but he also gave me something precious, the chance to rediscover myself. And let me tell you, this gift, my love, I will never return. When I look back, I see how many times I ignored the signs. I was trying to save something that was already broken. But here's the truth. You can't love for two. Love is exchange, it is partnership. And if the other side doesn't want to do their part, you'll wear yourself out until there's nothing left. That's exactly what happened to me. Rafael's betrayal was like a slap that woke me up to a harsh but necessary reality. I was putting his love above the love I had for myself. And that, my dear, is a mistake that a lot of people make. The way someone treats you does not define who you are. He was selfish, and for a while I wondered if the problem was with me. But do you know what I discovered? It was never my problem. I deserve to be a priority. You deserve to be a priority. Many times we stay in relationships out of fear. Fear of emptiness, fear of starting over, fear of what people will say. What will they think if I give up? I asked myself. But I learned that sometimes you have to let something die for something new to be born. My life today is not perfect, but it is mine. Nobody controls me, nobody diminishes me. And that, my dear, is a freedom that is priceless. If you're in a similar situation, do yourself a favor. Ask, am I getting the love I deserve? Be honest. If the answer is no, perhaps it's time to turn the page. It will hurt. You will cry. You'll wonder if you did the right thing. But trust me, the fresh start is worth every tear. Because in the game of love, you weren't born to be a supporting player. You are the protagonist. So pick up the pen and start writing the happy ending you deserve. After all, only you can do this. If there's one thing this story taught me, it's that no one, absolutely no one, has the right to control the scoreboard of your life. For a long time, I lived trying to please, trying to mold myself to the standards that Rafael, or perhaps the entire world, expected of me. But when everything came crashing down, do you know what became clear? The only person who really matters in this game is me. It was always me. Life is full of twists and turns. One day you're at the top. In the other, it seems like the floor disappears. But the best part of all this? It's just that you have the power to keep playing, or if you want, turn the board over and start again. And that's exactly what I did. I turned the tables. I chose myself. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't easy. There was a night when I cried myself to sleep. There was a day when I asked myself, did I do the right thing? And even worse, There were days when I missed things that, deep down, only hurt me. But you know what's amazing? Every step I took for myself, every choice I made for myself, was a point on my score. And do you want to know the best part? In the end, the only person I needed to beat was myself. Now let me ask you, what is holding you back? What's stopping you from taking control of your life? Is it the fear of making mistakes? To be alone? Of failing? I'll tell you something. These fears only have the power you give them. The control is in your hands, just as it was in mine. And let me remind you, the power to change, it's just yours. If you've made it this far, first, thank you for listening to my story. Second, remember something very important. You deserve more. Something true. Something that really makes your heart beat. And before you go, don't forget, like this video, comment below, and subscribe to the channel. I want you to be here to follow more stories of strength, overcoming, and above all, self-love. Because in the game of life, my dear, the final score is always decided by you.